Welcome to QI and to an evening of levity. Let's see who's got the light stuff. The light fantastic Sue Perkins. The light-footed Josh Widdicombe. The lightly armed Frank Skinner. And the lights on but nobody's home, Alan Davis. So, light up your lamps. And the Latin L, which is, of course, 50 in Roman numerals, if you can tell me what they have in common, all these little buzzer noises. Sue goes. Josh goes. Frank goes. And Alan goes. Any thoughts?
They're all noises made by Jeremy Clarkson during the intimate act.
He's kept you two apart whenever we've done it for good reasons. Yeah. So you've got an owl. He howls like an owl. You squeal like a pig.
It definitely ends.
That's the final rip for the pounder.
It's hard not to say
That's
that
when
you
Richard Hammond pops out. Hey.
That's the final rip of Stonewashed Denim, isn't it, that noise?
Would it help if I said it was L for law? Law with a W, not an O-R-E.
No.
Jewish law, which is known as for eating.
For kosher.
Kosher, yeah. And I said levity was our theme.
Leviticus.
Leviticus.
Oh, so shellfish and...
Well, we didn't hear any shellfish.
No, we didn't.
No.
Unless...
We heard an owl,
yeah.
a beard being shaved, the rending of cloth, and a pig.
So they're all things prohibited.
Anything to do with a pig is forbidden. Yeah. Brian Blessed, Brian Blessed is not kosher. So that's what they have in common. All your buzzers are forbidden by Jewish law.
That's very awkward, because I'm Jewish, so I can't take part in this, but that's for sure.
Also, if I were to go around and say, Josh, and have sex with you, just on the top of my head, that would also be...
That's not the bit I had an issue
that would
with.
be an
Kosher sex with people. I've never heard of kosher sex.
That would be an abomination, according
would
to
indeed.
Leviticus. So, they're all things that are forbidden in the book of Leviticus. You mustn't eat an owl, trim your beard, tear your clothes, or have anything to do with a pig. Sorry.
What does it mean, nothing to do with him? What if he comes up to you, just have to kind of...
Shun him,
Blanket. Sorry, mate, not interested. Yeah. Like a jogger in the street. Send you on your phone. Sorry.
Now, one of our questions tonight is lightly lavatorial. See if you can flush it out by going for a spend a penny bonus. All you have to do is brandish your baton and buzz your buzzer. And there are lots of points for it. Lots. It's really worth risking that the answer might be something lavatorial. But first, here's a lark. You each have a balloon, as I do. Ooh. And what I want to do is it's a levitation trick. It's all to do with static electricity, as you might have guessed. Well, the idea is to... Oh, that's already... Whoa, that's... Oh, no, that's... Oh, no! Yes! Alan got it. You charge up the plastic and the balloon, but you have to charge both of them. Yes, if anybody's hair can do this, it's Alan's.
I take that as a slight.
I know, that's because it sticks to your fingers. You have to just... not quite.
No.
Yes! The Patsy McGowan in The Prisoner there. Very good.
Do you know the sort of fatal thing they get in Star Trek when they didn't have any money? Ooh, put some music on it. In a red top.
Thank you, Alan. We can show you now Zara, one of our runners, who turned out to be rather a master of this art, or mistress, whichever you prefer. Here she is.
No.
Yeah.
That's weird.
Burn her!
Is that not just the draft from the balloon?
Yes. Well, it looks a bit like it, but actually, if you try that without having charged them, it won't do that.
Up? That's a bit like that.
It's the Black Theatre of Prague.
Yeah.
The fact is, yeah, scientifically you should be able to do it repeatably and predictably, but it's quite hard. But I promise you this, I will show you, before this evening is over, a levitation effect that will blow your socks off. Not literally, but will really impress you. That's going to come. Meanwhile, what's the funny thing about lightning?
The funny thing about it.
Well, given that it is a natural phenomenon that mankind has been aware of for all the time that we've been on the planet.
We're still captivated, freaked out, and surprised by it.
And surprised and don't understand it. We can't explain it.
We know a little bit about it. We know that thunderbolt and lightning is very, very frightening. It's white, it's forked.
Yes.
Or sheet. It's electric.
Or sheet, you say. No, not all sheet. Sheet lightning is the same as forked lightning. It's just hidden by a cloud.
Oh, so it's an illuminated cloud that gives that band of...
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. But one of the myths about it is that it will always strike what part of the building?
Highest.
The highest part. And that's not true. We've got a photograph to show you how untrue that is, of it hitting Grant's tomb there. There's a little branch of it hitting the top, but the huge part of the fork there is hitting 2/3 of the way up. Half of lightning goes up from the ground, and about 300 feet up. They meet each other. I know it's weird. Yes.
So lightning goes upwards?
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Wrong.
No. 90% of strikes on the Empire State Building, for example, are ascending strikes rather than descending strikes. I know it seems astonishing, but photography allows us to see this phenomenon of it coming up from the ground and meeting with sky forks.
My dad used to, whenever there was lightning, we had to open the knife drawer and put a tea towel over the knives and forks to avoid it coming through the window and striking, and turn the TV off. It's the only time the TV was ever turned off. It's quite a big...
Is that not doing it?
You'd open the door to cover it with a tea towel. No, there's something about the tea... You know, tea towels have got that earthing quality.
Did you not have anything else that was metal?
No, I think that's all we have. Can I say we have no piercings in our...
How can lightning be beautiful? Can you picture a beauty that comes from lightning? I mean, obviously, there's something stark and amazing about photographs of lightning, which is not unbeautiful, but actually the effect of lightning can be staggeringly beautiful.
Oh.
It's called a Lichtenberg figure, after a very remarkable scientist called Lichtenberg, and he noticed when people had been struck by lightning, there was a very remarkable... yeah, and he... and if you can see it here, and you can see pictures of it there. I'm holding one. That's a bolt of it. This is artificially produced, and it's like a beautiful ferny kind of thing.
You'd get that level of detail, would you, on the skin?
Absolutely. We'll show it on the human skin. There. It actually has rather big nipples as well.
Yeah. It's not... do you know what? It's not a price worth paying, though, for that, is it?
It looks like a tattoo where there's a plant on the side of his face.
Yeah.
Round the back there's a massive pot.
Yeah.
Does that remain like that?
Let's just say one wouldn't throw it out of bed.
Actually, that would be cruel. It should have been struck by lightning.
Let's all just say that. Yeah, so, from lightning to lighthouses, how many men does it take to crew in a lighthouse?
Crew in?
Work it?
Yes, crew it. Yeah, go on.
It's 0 these days.
You're right, these days it is 0, but we're talking about the past. How many used it to be before they were automatic?
1.
Well, no.
2.
The fact is, it always used to be 2 in the early days of the lighthouses, until something rather unfortunate happened off the coast of Pembrokeshire, where Thomas Howell and Thomas Griffith, whom you would never guess were actually Welsh, and they were a 2-man team in 1801, and they were known to quarrel. And unfortunately, Griffith fell ill and died. And Howell was rather worried because he thought people might imagine he killed him, so he wanted to preserve the body, so he made a sort of wooden coffin and lashed it to the outside of the lighthouse. And unfortunately, a storm arose and smashed this coffin, and so the hand of Griffith started waving as if beckoning Howell.
And Chip started thinking, oh, that person's calling us over there.
By the time, weeks later, he was relieved of his duty, he had gone almost insane. People didn't recognise him. He was described as just about demented because he'd just wanted to keep the body to prove that he hadn't killed it.
So it meant because he was frightened because the corpse was
flailing
around.
He was frightened that people would say, oh, we all know that you had rows with him and you killed him. And so he wanted to keep the body as fresh as possible to show that it hadn't been poisoned or beaten. But of course, by lashing him to the
I think that makes him look more guilty.
It does, I know. It's most unfortunate.
He killed him.
But people believed him.
It's a kind of quite a niche scenario that you've gone, well, in case that happens again, we should get another person in.
I know, it doesn't make sense.
They're all sitting around. I'm only here in case one of you two killed each other.
Don't lash him to the side, because his arm will do that. I've seen it before.
Sorry, I did kill him in the night. Oh, you idiot.
It does seem potty, I grant you. Who's the most famous person who kind of kept a lighthouse?
What about Grace Darling?
That's the one we're after.
Who I think her dad was the lighthouse keeper.
Her dad was the lighthouse keeper.
And there was a shipwreck and she rowed bravely out.
And there she is in
many
Ladybird
lives.
book fashion. doing exactly that, looking utterly transcendently beautiful and lovely.
She's completely dry. Just...
Yeah. Just thinking, God, it's out. Like that. Yeah.
It was in 1838, on a stormy night off the coast of... Which part of Britain did she come from? Do you remember?
Scotland?
A little bit further down.
I thought it was your end, wasn't it?
No, it wasn't Cornwall. It was Northumberland, or the Northumbrian coast. She was awarded the Gold Medal of the Royal Humane Society, and she was sent £50 by Queen Victoria, and poems written about her by William Wordsworth, Algernon Swinburne, and even more excitingly, William McGonagall, which is fantastic. And she had crowds of tourists flocking to see her. She was the celebrity of her age. They rescued 9 survivors from a shipwreck off the Northumbrian coast, which was what made her a hero, or heroine.
Well, there you are.
They had 3 men in every lighthouse in case one of them died and gave the other the willies. What's the most famous lighthouse?
It's legal now, it's fine, it's legal.
What is the most famous lighthouse in the world?
I don't know. The one on the Needles is quite famous.
Needles is quite famous, yeah. I mean, there was one that was one of the 7 wonders of the world.
Oh, which is in Spain, is it not? Or it's like Hercules' Tower or something. There's something Hercules.
Pharos. It's the Alexandrian lighthouse.
I know. I love the way you looked at me as I got that right, whilst telling me that every aspect. I love that. It made me feel good about
You were
myself.
wrestling the puppy knowledge.
Yeah.
Actually, all those lighthouses, the Eddystone, the Kenilworth, might be known by quite a section of the population, but this one, everyone knows the name of this one. What they probably don't know is that it was originally a lighthouse.
Empire State Building.
Not the Empire State Building.
Statue of Liberty.
Yes, the Statue of Liberty. Well done. Absolutely right. There it is. It was visible from 24 miles out to sea. It was a gift to America from the French, yes. And originally, what colour was it?
Orange.
Was
Not
it?
red and white like that.
Well, it was always intended to go green because it's
That's the
copper
gayest
It's
lighthouse
copper
I've ever seen.
You're absolutely right, Alan. It has a thin sheet of copper leaf, as it were, over it.
Good
Originally, it shone copperly, but like all copper does.
Oxidises.
Yeah,
It's
and so you get
verdigris.
copper carbonate, and verdigris is the name for it, exactly. You see those domes and things, that green colour that is Lady Liberty. And there's her torch. And in 1986 was the centenary, and they decided to give her a bit of a makeover. And actually, the one bit that didn't need the makeover was the copper skin, except in the torch. And it needed a special technique called repoussé or repoussage, and no American craftsman could be found who could do it. So a French team came over. And Americans, we think of them as very, capitalist, as America is a capitalist country, but it's also very, it's also very unionised. And the American labourers were totally antagonistic.
Teamsters?
They gave the French, they were like Teamsters. They gave the French workers complete cold shoulder. The French workers wore uniforms, and every lunchtime set up a long table with a tablecloth and had wine. The Americans sat alone eating burgers and other things and letting their stomachs push out further and further. And the French used this wonderful technique of little hammers. Marteau, And someone from the French team said, we did everything by hand. The Americans couldn't believe that the best way to rivet is with hammers. It's cheaper, faster, and better. But they were always trying to find some machine. And that is absolutely... You go ice fishing with Americans. They have these, extraordinary motor augers that
like in
drill a
Fargo.
hole. Yeah, like in Fargo, exactly.
In the Titanic Museum in Belfast, which is quite good. They...
They'll now be using that all of their
You better do a bit better there at Belfast now. Yeah, not good enough, really, for Alan.
That's one of his best ones. You can go around and they've got the kind of reconstruction of the building of it, and that's the best bit.
Yeah.
And lots of the rivets were done by hand.
Yes, they were.
And you've got hundreds of riveters, and they would do an incredible number of rivets in an hour.
Yeah.
And in awful conditions, very cramped, hot. But yes, and so
It's really quite absorbing.
I bought
Riveting, I mean.
I bought a journal. I was at the airport in Belfast, and I bought the journal of the Titanic Society, a sort of a photocopy, but quite a fat thing. And I read it. It's about, I suppose, 100 pages, and lots of stuff about the captain and the way it was put together. Not one reference in the entire book to the fact that it sank. I love it when people are positive. With the Titanic Society, their ship is always half empty of water.
There's a wonderful Thomas Hardy poem called The Convergence of the Twain, and it takes the point of view of the iceberg and the Titanic, and the two converge. And what's rather wonderful is that each verse is the shape of the Titanic. It has sort of 2 or 3 words at the top, then a long line, and then a shorter line, then a shorter line. So it looks, each verse is boat-shaped.
He should have done it, so it wasn't just that, but it animated.
Yeah, I know.
The iceberg coming out to
Was it Bill Tidy who did the most fantastic cartoon of all time? And it was a queue of people.
Oh, I love this.
And
one.
it said information about Titanic, and people are queuing up to find out about survivors, women in shawls. And at the back, there's 2 polar bears standing, calling, any news about the iceberg?
I love that. It's so great.
Perfect. Yeah. But I've always thought, had I been on the Titanic when it hit that iceberg, even though you know you're going to perish, seeing like 40 penguins fall over is probably about as funny.
The possibility of seeing penguins in the North Pole or the northern reaches of the planet is pretty remote. Right? They come from Antarctica.
There are penguins in the
Damn that global warming.
Now floating all over the place.
A Fox's Glacier Mint, probably.
What did happen to the iceberg?
It
moved on with its life.
Did it?
Yeah,
it didn't face any punishment.
I think it was bought
now. It would be followed around by the press. Raking over his life. You know. Who is this bastard iceberg? He's always been a bastard. He's foreign. I think it was other foreign icebergs we hate who've ruined our good stuff.
Nigel Farage, exactly.
Bombing.
Oh, you don't want an iceberg moving in next door to you, do you?
Anyway, the Statue of Liberty used to be a lighthouse, and in those days it was brown, nice for some light relief. What's the most interesting thing you can do with a sausage?
Well, she's used hers for a hairpiece. Hold that round.
A lovely little...
What's the most interesting thing?
It's got to be something to do
With the loo.
with the loo. It's got to be.
Yes. I'm going to give you the points, because there is a way, which is very lavatorial, in which you can improve a sausage, which is quite interesting and very surprising.
Poo in it?
Yes.
Oh,
come on.
Really?
Baby faeces in a sausage will improve a sausage. Now,
I've been throwing them away.
Bear with me
you
here.
need to get some casings and eat that, right?
Bear with me here.
Right.
According to a study in the journal Meat Science, MEAT Science, you make sausages healthier by adding bacteria extracted from babies' faeces. Now, the point is, many sausages,
What are you doing
pepperoni...
in laboratories, for God's sake?
What they try and do is improve things for us to make us healthy. And pepperoni and salami are made with bacterial fermentation. And the best way you can do that is to use what are known as probiotic bacteria, i.e. bacteria that are said to be good for you. And oddly enough, this Catalonian team decided that one of the best types would be baby faeces, because by definition they would have passed through the human system and passed out again, and because baby faeces are easy to obtain. In fact, the study used nappies provided by mother and baby
Still don't
support
make it right.
groups. Professional tasters confirmed that sausages tasted the same.
Who does that for a living?
I know. They tasted the same. You wouldn't notice.
That's a rough day down the job
They are
centre.
lower in both fat and salt.
But
and therefore
it's poo,
healthier.
Stephen. It's literally poo.
It gives a new meaning to potty mouth.
But it does mean that Alan gets his spend a penny bonus. It's very good news. In fact, that was a supplementary question, because the original question involved the use of sausages in history. Sausages such that a country, where we showed you a photograph that shows a country that is really fond of sausages.
Germany.
Yes. It's so useful with the sausages for Germany at a particular time in history that people were banned from eating them, and they were banned in Poland, in Austria, in northern France.
Well, they're using them as part of the war effort.
Yes, World War I. The Germans had a very impressive weapon which terrorised London.
The Bratwurst Lasso. Which they get human head off at 100
The
paces.
Zeppelin, it's exactly right. The Graf Zeppelin, the Count Zeppelin invented this.
Are you saying that's one enormous sausage?
They flew and they dropped baby excrement over London.
What made it lighter than air?
Helium.
Not helium, no. Hydrogen. That's why they were so dangerous and so combustible, because hydrogen is very combustible. And they would go over London, and the chappie at the bottom there in the little gondola would
You make it
drop
sound
a bomb.
really lovely. The little chappie would go over London.
But the thing is, the hydrogen would easily leak from the patches, and they found that sausage skins would go over the joins, and they would latch onto each other, a bit like Velcro. They would stick to each other, and they'd seal the whole thing, so the hydrogen wouldn't leak. Well, now...
Got more bad news for pigs.
It was cattle rather than pigs. It was beef sausages.
So they would just fly like an apocalyptic cow balloon over the top of London and just drop.
Bullets would go through, and there wouldn't be enough to bring it down. And it took 2 years for the British to learn how to use incendiary bullets to cause the hydrogen to blow up.
Were they ever struck by lightning?
Yes, 3 Zeppelins were downed by lightning. Yeah, how about that?
That's brilliant. It shows
also,
that God was on our side.
250,000 cows they used per Zeppelin. That's pretty impressive.
So 250,000 cows were the making of
yeah.
a Zeppelin.
Which is why they had to stop the Germans, the Austrians, the Poles, and those in northern France at the time from getting their sausage.
What a shame they didn't do a big cow's face on the front of it.
No,
They just don't have those artistic flourishes, the Germans, do they? Everything's very functional.
That was my problem with the Nazis.
We spoke earlier about lightning and the Empire Strikes Back. Confusing me, driving me at the Empire State Building. What's the connection between the Empire State Building and big dirigible balloons?
It was a mooring place.
Yes, a mooring place. They originally thought that they'd be able to land passengers on the top.
Yeah.
One of these did actually moor itself in 40-mile-an-hour winds.
What they needed
for
to do...
a few minutes.
They needed to rob the top of it with a towel. Somebody robbing the top of the airship.
That would have done it. And what is the mast for? I mean, do you know what the mast
was? Only there to be taller than the Chrysler Building.
Yeah, absolutely right.
And the Chrysler Building...
Were they built at the same sort of time? Yeah. Competing?
And the Chrysler Building was going to be the taller one, and they took the mast up the inside of the Empire State Building and stuck it on the top of the end.
The Chrysler Building, I think we can all agree, is more beautiful. Although they're both quite marvellously decorated.
They are.
Yeah. But the Chrysler Building is stunning. Well, there we are. The linings in German airships caused a sausage shortage in World War I. What was the charge for the world's first charity single?
Oh, it's not going to be Band-Aid,
is the clue in charge?
Yes, it certainly is.
The charge of the Light Brigade.
Well done, you. Absolutely.
Charge.
So that's the beginning of the puzzle opened up. So how can the charge of the Light Brigade have anything to do with the charity single?
You can't really release... They didn't release a single.
Well, not a single, as it wasn't called a single in those days.
Tennyson, there are cylinder recordings of Alfred Lord
Indeed.
Tennyson. So maybe he read The Charge of the Light Brigade on
He may have
cylinder.
done. His voice. I am Alfred Tennyson. You do hear that, absolutely. He did live into the age of the phonograph, as it was then called. But this is actually slightly more touching in a way. There was actually a bugler who recorded the charge, which is a particular call on the bugle, and he was himself a survivor of the charge of the Light Brigade, and I'll give you all the full details of it. He plays the charge that he blew on the day, on a bugle, was used at Balaclava, which had also previously been used at Waterloo. It's a heck of a historic
That's a
bugle.
pedigree, yeah.
It was recorded as a charity single to raise money for veterans of the charge who had fallen on hard times. And we can
the
play
last thing they want to hear, though, isn't it?
Oh, well, they didn't need to listen to it. Oh, my God! You can hear it now. There you are. That was Martin Landfried, who was a bugler, and he made that recording in 1890, and the Light Brigade was 1854.
Incredible quality.
And the bugle itself is not bad quality, really, is it?
And that's to help all veterans, or just specifically veterans of that particular
specifically veterans
failed...
of the charge, yeah. So the call we hear brought the line from a canter to an all-out gallop, but almost all of what we would call a charge was actually a trot. So the whole thing was called an advance until the last 200 yards when the charge was sounded, and then bang! But at Balaclava, they did more galloping than they would at a normal British charge, which is one of the things that made it so hopeless and extraordinary. Half a league, which is a mile and a half, because a league is 3 miles. So half a league onward into the Valley of Death Road.
And is that why they failed? Because they sort of peaked? They kind of...
Well, they failed because they simply rode into guns. I mean, it was insane. The fact is, the Charge of the Light Brigade was a pretty disastrous thing, but it did cause the first charity single. So, bugler Martin Landfried lifted the spirits of the Light Brigade at Balaclava. How did Chicago get completely screwed up?
They put Catherine Zeta-Jones in.
You are a naughty girl. I love that film.
I'm joking. Actually, she was really good.
Brilliant, that film.
I liked it. The sort of Bob Fosse style choreography.
They boarded it up with screws. Is
well,
it literally
sort of.
screwed up thing?
It was literally screwed up.
Is it to do with Prohibition?
Not
because it's windy, no.
Or Barack Obama. It's always Prohibition or Barack Obama.
No, it was before either of them.
Valentine's Day Massacre. It was always Prohibition or Barack Obama.
Before any of those things.
So before that, so it's what, Victorian?
Literally the founding of Chicago. It was a huge stop-off on Lake...
Michigan.
Lake Michigan. And unfortunately it was built on a swamp. And typhus and typhoid were absolutely ravaging the population. So they decided, with good old American know-how and sort of optimism, they would jack the city up. They would screw it up with screw jacks, as they're called. And there you can see the grey bit all along the bottom. They literally were screwing it up while people were living in it. There was the Tremont Hotel, for example, which was covered a whole acre, which they screwed up. There it is. They screwed it up. And they didn't even close the hotel while it was being lifted up off the ground. And underneath, in the air, the space, the crawl space, you might say, they put sewage and fresh water and so on. And it was a resounding success.
There wasn't someone who went to bed in that hotel and woke up and went, what the hell has gone on?
And also the river was full of sewage. It flowed into the clean Michigan. And so the ingenious system of locks, they made it reverse in the other direction. And once a year, they dye the river, which goes beautifully like a Venetian canal. They dye it green. Why would they do that?
Paddy's Day.
Indeed, because there are lots of Irish in, they have the bagpipes and so on. And it's a beautiful, beautiful city. I happen to love it. That is actually for real. We haven't done that with Photoshop. That's it.
Really? That's
right. That is how it looks.
So what dye? What?
Green dye.
The trouble is...
I'm sorry, I can't do better than that. I wish I could help. Somebody named Meridian or something.
The towns and cities further down the river get St Patrick's Day on the wrong...
Yes. The entire city of Chicago was jacked 10 feet in the air to make room for the plumbing. Now let's lighten the mood with a little light general ignorance. Fingers lightly on your buzzers, please. Name one of the rules in a walking race.
Not allowed to run, are you?
Well, you certainly can't run. You should be walking.
Isn't it that some part of your foot has to be in contact with the ground?
Oh, time. There you are, you see.
Are those shorts strictly legal, though?
There's a little bit of swinging. Just cover that with your hand.
Oh, dear.
That's really...
Please make that stop.
So wrong.
Oh, dear.
The feet.
God, no.
I feel like we've gone back to the sausage
nearly
round.
gone. It's gone.
Look at the feet. Don't look at the
That isn't a tip to one of the rules we should know, is it? No pants.
swinging basket.
Keep the junk in the trunk.
The fact is, I will read you the rule if you want to know it. It's from the International Association of Athletics Federations. Rule book says race walking, as it's called, is a progression of steps so taken that the walker makes contact with the ground so that no visible to the human eye loss of contact occurs. All Olympic walkers, when you slow them down on TV, have moments, a few milliseconds sometimes, when both feet are off the ground, but it's not visible to the human eye. But of course, nowadays you can freeze frame just about anything incredibly accurately. So Olympic Games broadcasters and Olympic judges get absolutely bombarded with calls from people who are furious because they've seen both feet off the ground and they're convinced that must be against the rules, but actually it isn't.
How do you get into it?
I know, because it looks so silly. The bottom swinging.
I know people that are fast walkers, but you never go,
no.
But
you should go for this.
No, I know.
It's that action with the elbows that I find.
It's very hard to talk about it without finding it. It's like when you talk about a spiral staircase and you do that. I'm feeling my bum going now.
Have you seen
Until you
that?
pick several stitches out of this upholstery.
Have you seen that video of the two women finishing... trying to finish the walking race. I'm not sure if it's the Olympics. And they end up crawling. It's absolutely...
They're so exhausted.
They're so exhausted. Both their legs have gone... I've never seen legs go like jelly.
My legs went to jelly. I did this thing with Bear Grylls where I had to do this rappel down a sheer face. I was never been so terrified in my entire life. I got that.
Sorry, you rappelled down Bear Grylls' face?
Yeah. He chose the face.
and then your legs went to gym.
The really frightening thing was that he took me to the edge, and then there was 45 minutes.
Sorry, Bear Grylls took me... There was a tantalising 45 minutes. I mean, that's a wait. That is a wait. That's high tensile, that is.
Sorry.
Yeah. Just to be on the cusp of 45 minutes.
There was 45 minutes of crew talking about safety things and about the sound people hiding themselves in nooks and crannies so that a helicopter shot could go round.
Top draw porn.
But...
Don't get many aerial shots, do you?
Get that on red
so once I got down this sheer face, I found my legs had
completely go.
Just gave way. I couldn't stand. So I had to arse luge all my way down. And it ripped the entire outer layer of trousering.
Did it sound like this?
Yes.
Anyway, that's my dog.
It was terrible. Anyway, race walking is often seen as a comical event. Someone once described it as like having a competition to see who can whisper the loudest. Now, here's the crew of the International Space Station. Why are they weightless?
Yes. Because they're in zero gravity.
Oh, dear. A common misapprehension.
Yeah.
No, that's not it at all. There's a huge amount of gravity. They're very close to the Earth. The moon is...
so they weren't in flight at that point?
No, they weren't. They were orbiting the Earth. But they're in free fall, a bit like skydivers. And unfortunately, unlike skydivers, they're also travelling sideways at the same time. If they weren't, they would crash into the Earth. So there's certainly not zero gravity. There's a lot of gravity. The space station and the astronauts in free fall inside it is plummeting towards the Earth, but because of its curvature, the ground is falling away from them at the same speed as they're falling towards it. To put it another way, the space station is constantly falling, but its tremendous horizontal speed means that it always falls over the horizon.
They love karaoke, don't they? They love it.
But it's not that there's no gravity acting on them. There's a huge amount of gravity acting on the spacecraft, or it would just be lost in space. So you didn't do so well on that, so maybe you'll do better on this. Why does spacecraft get hot on re-entry?
How do they get friction?
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome
for that.
Yeah,
It's not friction,
you came to the
as
right
people-
place if you wanted idiots.
No, you're not idiotic. Most of us would have said friction.
Right.
It's not friction, actually. It's what's called a bow shock. It's the pressure on the air in front of it, like a bow wave of a ship. And the faster you go, the hotter it becomes because of this enormous pressure on the air. And there are other examples of that sort of effect, like a sonic boom, for example, which when you're going faster, which is also a sort of bow shock.
Everything I know about space is entirely taken from Sandra Bullock's performance in Gravity.
No, you couldn't be better.
Everything I know about space comes from reading the right stuff. And I know that if you get it wrong when you re-enter, you can skip off
Oh,
the atmosphere.
absolutely.
And
No,
then you'll
like a
and then
stone.
you'll just never cut. Yeah. Then
Yeah.
you'll just never
Then
come
you
back.
just keep going.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the fact is spacecraft heat up on re-entry because of the bow shock, not the friction. What do beavers eat? Good beaver shot?
Wood.
Is the right answer. We were hoping you might say fish. They are, in fact, completely vegan. They just eat wood and plants and algae, seaweed, things like that.
Are they,
Absolute nightmare at a dinner pie.
So they're down the river just for breeding purposes.
They're down the river for breeding, exactly, for creating a lodge. And
I've seen one. I've stood on one.
You stood on one?
yeah, you
Because
can.
it's-
They're really solid. You
can walk.
Yeah.
Did you deliberately stand on it?
Yeah, well, it's
You can.
Is it
You're
like,
invited to.
like
It's just
surfing?
It's like a
they
tourist
don't
thing.
mind. They don't seem to
They're-
mind.
You know, you can get from the bank onto it, and it's this great
like a bridge,
construction
yeah.
of logs and branches and.
Oh, I thought you stood on a beaver. You didn't stand on a I thought you were beaver surfing. You're not the internet, after all.
Beaver surfing is
instead of a
quite
beaver.
different. I'll tell you a very interesting beaver fact, though. If you take a beaver out of its natural environment, which is by a river, and put it in the middle of a forest, far from a river, and turn on a tape recorder, which has the sound of a gurgling river, it will build a dam. It doesn't need to see or feel the water. And unfortunately, in Scotland and places like that, where there have been attempts to try and reintroduce the beaver, people wrongly think they eat fish and that they'll threaten the salmon or the trout or whatever. But of course they don't, because they don't eat fish.
They just destroy forests.
Well, they have a nibble anyway. And finally, who fancies a quantum-locking levitation lark? And to help me tonight, we have Professor Andrew Boothroyd of the Physics Department of Oxford University. Hello, Andrew. So, here we go. This is going to go over my head, so I'm going to duck. Ta-da. There it is. Exciting tray, and what looks like a bit of sort of scale electric. And let's just line it up there. Now, we've got a little bucket here. What's in this bucket, Andrew?
That's a bucket of liquid nitrogen.
Liquid nitrogen, which, as you know, is extremely cold. And I'm going to dip a rose into it just to show how cold it is. I better put these gloves on first.
All right.
Health and safety.
Blumenthal.
And these, all safety, 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 safety.
As long as you're safe, that's the main thing.
Yeah, okay. Here we go. So I'm going to dip a rose into this. You might have had this. Ooh, bubbles away. It's really cold now. And it might even shatter. Look at that, like glass.
So I got touched a bit that's landed on me.
So it's burning into your skin.
It shatters like glass.
I've got a little wart on my finger. Is this a chance to burn it off?
You might get a little
And the rest of your hand.
That'd be a great way of dumping someone on Valentine's Day.
So what have we got here, Andrew?
We got here a piece of ordinary-looking black ceramic, which,
Yeah.
when we cool it down to very low temperatures, acquires a very extraordinary property.
Okay.
So if you just like to cool it down with liquid nitrogen.
I shall baste it with liquid nitrogen. There we are.
And we have a second one over here.
All right.
Do that one too.
We'll cool that as well.
This is like the beginning of every pop video in the 80s.
Tell me what's particular about this.
It loses all its resistance, its electrical resistance, and becomes what's known as a superconductor.
Ah, yes.
That's one thing.
Yeah.
And the other thing is that it acquires the property that it can bend magnetic field lines in such a way that it will always try to resist any motion, even if that means hovering above the ground.
All right. So let's just pick it up and pop it. Whoops. There it goes.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, it's pretty good, isn't it? And
Literally.
That makes no effect. And you can just give it a tip.
Oh, that's very
Yeah.
strange.
Oh, yeah. And as it warms up, it'll slowly sink.
Oh, wow.
There you go.
Is this what you do most days at the Oxford University?
Almost every day.
Not
So-
a bad old job.
This one here is very exciting. And now it's nice and slidey.
Oh, wow.
But look at this.
And what's happening there? What's making it...
It's the magnetic field, isn't it? It's interrupted by this superconductivity.
It's not like a normal magnet, because a normal magnet would repel when it's up that way, and then it would just fall off.
Yeah.
So this is both repelling and attracting at the same time.
I'll give it one more little go, and then we can try it on the track.
I thought you were saying that we can try it on Alan.
Upside down in a bucket of nitrogen.
There we go. Pop it there.
Oh, wow.
Fantastic.
Round it goes.
That's good.
That's amazing.
Isn't it good?
It looks like...
it's got a
Can someone
little
pass the
tray, it's like a
sellotape?
steam
And it's got a steam train. It can go the other way.
Oh.
We could put the wrong type of leaf on the track.
And is this going to get us to Mars? That's the main
Well,
question.
what do you think, Andrew? Are there any practical applications we can think of?
Well, you could use it as a piece of transport like that, but it's quite expensive because of the cost of cooling the nitrogen.
Oh, right, so it's not efficient.
But if we could find a superconductor that worked at room temperature, then it would be viable.
Right.
Are you working on that?
We are, yes, indeed, yes, I am.
I trust you.
I know they're not. They're just playing with this all the time. That's what I'm doing.
No, isn't it gorgeous? So you'd think it would almost be like a maglev train, you know, one of those...
That's what it would be like.
Oh, there we go again.
Oh,
I love that. And this, of course, can go on here as well.
Oh, it's...
It's all right. What a pussy.
One. That actually...
Boing.
Oh,
Unfortunately, this one is less insulated and it'll probably get... it's stopped.
It's doing pretty well.
Oh, my God. That's coming for me. Oh, no.
Cool. Oh, there you go.
That'd be like the best Christmas present in the world.
So you need... What is the magnet made of? It's rather exciting names. Boron and...
The magnet is made of neodymium, iron and boron, and that's what the track is
Neodymium.
made of. Neodymium and iron and boron.
Wonderful.
The
Very good
superconductor
element.
is made of gadolinium, barium, copper and oxygen.
But you can just use sticky back plastic. Clearly liquid bottle.
Well, there you have the miracle that is quantum levitation. Thanks to Andrew
Amazing.
Boyd. Thank you so much. For once I can say, what could be cooler than that? That's all the levity we've got time for, so let's have a look at the scores. It's very exciting. I'm afraid, bringing up the rear with minus 14 is Sue Perkins. With minus 7, in third place is Frank Skinner. In a brilliant second is Josh Widdicombe with 5. He's still my pulsing member in first place. With 11 points is Alan Davis. Thanks for watching and good night from Sue, Frank, Josh, Alan and me. We leave you to ponder upon the last words of the French satirist François Rabelais in 1553. These were his dying words. I have nothing, I owe much, the rest I leave to the poor. Good night.
Next, the rock star lifestyle of an iconic Welsh poet in his final days. Tom Hollander transforms into Dylan Thomas, a poet in New York.